Hey everybody, welcome to the G. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. Please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. It's just me reading books. No special effects here, no theme music, nothing like that. My clip art or thumbnails are horrible. My lighting is horrible. I get yellow. Sometimes am I yellow? I think I'm yellow. So, I don't even know where my glasses are. So I'm gonna ask you, whose book is this anyway? Whose book really? With the real what was that show? To Tell the Truth or Truth or the one where they had all these people come and they all pretended to be the real person, and then the contestant had to guess which person was the real one. Well, that's what I feel like with this. Of course, if you're a Anne Hillerman fan, you will enjoy the Brandon Walker series tremendously. I am a J.P. Beaumont fan. JANCE, J.P. Beaumont. I am used to reading J.P. Beaumont from J.P. Beaumont's point of view. And with just push that a little. With what was the other one? Partner in Crime and Fire and Ice were the other two ones, where JP guest starred in the books. He had very, very small roles. Well, Fire and Ice, no, Partner in Crime, it wasn't 50%, maybe 25 or 30. He had even less of a role in Fire and Ice, and he has even a less role in this, maybe 10%. If you go that way, you're dead, man. We've had some fights today over Mom, over who gets to stay in Mom's lap. Where is she? She's over there. So we'll see what happens. She's not very happy with me. But we are talking about J.A. Jance, Dance of the Bones. I forget what book number it is. It's in the 20s, I think. I'll put it on the posting. Did I write it down? So, no, I didn't write it down. So, it's hard to talk about this because I'm not too. JP used to be a homicide detective with the Seattle Police Department, and he left them and he went to the S.H.I.T Squad, or the Special Homicide by the Governor's thing. And that's the one reason you should read this if you're a Beaumont fan, if for nothing else, for that one page that fills you in on what happened, why the Ross Connors agency was disbanded, because it's not really mentioned in the previous two books. It just says it was disbanded. It isn't until this book that you get the meat and the bones of the situation and what happened. So that's like the biggest reason for reading this book, is to catching up on what happened with the S.H.I.T Squad. But that was the name of it. It was a Special Homicide Investigation something team. And oh shoot. So the book, I don't mind a book being told by different points of view, but normally, and J.A. Jance I'm not, she may be the only one so far that I've read, but there may have been another one or two, I'm not sure. But usually when they change point of views, the character has a chapter. Even if it's only a paragraph or two, it's labeled as a chapter. Its own chapter, its own page. Not with J.A. Jance. She floats back and forth within the same chapter of different point of views. They're not even in the same state. They're not even working on the same thing. And it's only not this one so much, because JP was so far out of it. Because I usually say that JP, I'm so familiar with JP's voice in my head, especially with the audiobooks, because I do a lot of audiobooks, that it's easy to differentiate between the characters' voices. And I can see when it goes to a JP. And that was true with this one. But his role was like this big. Microscopic in this book. We had several point of views. We started out with Lanny's, and then was Brandon's, and then we had a lot of Gabe's point of view. And just all right, so let me just do this a little bit. So we know who the murderer is almost immediately. In the prologue, they reveal who the murderer is. And someone else takes the blame. And, it's the oldest soap opera story in the world, where two best friends, a girl comes between them, and she breaks them up. She lets one and the other believe that the other one made a pass at her or something, and the men fight over her, and they split up, and they never talk again. And it's just, and it was her. The guy can say it was her till he's, dead in the grave. And the boyfriend is going to believe the girl over his best friend, even though he's known his best friend for his entire life, from the crib. And he's only known the girl for a month, and he will take the girl's word over his best friend's. Doesn't it always work that way? It's just so irritating. They do that on soap operas all the time. It's such a soap opera-y thing. So that's basically what happened. Oh, you're looking so cute. That between the John Lasseter and Amos. Amos had the girlfriend. No, Lasseter had the girlfriend, and Amos is trying to tell him the girls are no good. And then the girl said, he tried to make a move on me, and Lasseter believed her over his friend. And him and his friend had fisticuffs over it, and they never spoke again. And unbeknownst to Lasseter, she takes Amos out and shoots him. You want to see Miss Cute here? There she is. There's Miss Cute. So anyways, I'm sorry if that made noise. I have no idea. It doesn't make noise here when you do it, but obviously on the playback it makes noise, and I'm sorry for that. So most of this occurred in 1970, and forensics and CSI was like almost non-existent. They were just coming in with the fingerprints, and they were just getting this stuff going. It isn't until the 90s or so that CSI gets involved, and then the TV show takes off. But and it happened way out in the desert, and it happened storms and stuff. So trace evidence and all that kind of stuff is non-existent, and it's just by hearsay, and nobody actually witnessed anything. They're just pointing the blame all these different ways, and people remember the bar fight, and they're like, oh yeah, he did this, and he believed him, and all this kind of stuff. And even the girlfriend testifies against the guy. Oh yeah, he did it, even though she was the one that did it. And it turns out she was sleeping with the prosecutor at the time, so that may have inspired the whole case there, but we don't know. There's lots. It's such a very multi-layered book, and if you like Ann Hillerman, you will love this book, and you will probably love the Brandon Walker series too. There's a lot of Indian prayers and rituals and stuff like that. Very interesting. It's very Are you going to take your collar off? Excuse me, I have got to blow my nose, and I don't want to blow it on camera. Okay. I'm sorry. Was that TMI? Did I do TMI? Was that too much? You think so? You think it was TMI? So, this book takes place in 2015. almost 30 years after the original murder. And this lady, Lanny, Dr. Lanny, is taking her godson on a spirit quest type of thing to Kit Peak. And Lanny was a strict observer of all applicable rules and rituals among the desert people. Stories were traditionally called winter telling tales. They want to be shared only in the wintertime. That meant that they could only be told between the middle of November and the middle of March. The rest of the year, they were off limits. And Gabe was having a difficult time. He was being friends with the wrong people, and his parents didn't understand him, and that all this kind of stuff going on. All this kind of teenage angst up the yin-yang going on. So Lanny decided that she was going to be a godmother, and she was going to take him out, and they were going to spend the night camping, and they were going to tell stories, and she was going to talk to him about his troubles. And they get up there, and he had taken soda with him, he had taken candy with him, he had taken chips with him, and they confiscated all of that, and then let him keep his other stuff, but took that away when they got there, when they discovered he had that. And he got so bent, and you're out to get me, and all that kind of teenage angst, that he left. So, and he does eventually get home, but they don't know that yet. So they're doing that. And at the same time, Brandon Walker is really our lead character in this particular series. Him and Lanny tell the story for most of it. And then you get bits and pieces of Gabe's point of view. So those are the three main point of views during the whole story. Brandon's, Gabe's, and Lonnie's. And Gabe attends a party with his wife. Apparently his wife is an author and a big time deal. So you probably get more information on that from the Brandon books themselves. And while he's there, he's approached by Ollie Glassman, a former attorney, who says his son was hired by a cold case unit. I forget, I have it written down someplace, but it switches back and forth. Because the book goes, all right. He tells him they've negotiated a deal with the county attorney. Lassiter could either go for a third trial, or he could cop second degree and get out with time served. But Lassiter is saying no. He told them he doesn't want a third trial, and he's turned down the plea deal too. He said he served more than 30 years for a crime he did not commit, and he'd be damned if he plead guilty to something he didn't do just to get out of jail free card. And so Brandon's like thinking about it, because he was the lead investigator way back when. And it was all circumstantial evidence, and why the jury, it might have been a biased jury. They might have bought, they didn't believe him. He said he didn't do it. But, they didn't have any evidence. They didn't have a gun. They didn't have blood. He didn't have clothes with blood or residue or anything like that. And it also, another nail in his coffin, although I don't think it was learned then, or maybe it was learned, he was Amos's sole heir too, so that he didn't know that until later. But maybe the prosecutors thought that was a determining factor, but they never did find a gun. They never had any, so they didn't really have any real evidence, so I'm not sure why this guy was convicted. But he has ended up with multiple sclerosis, and he's paralyzed in a wheelchair from the waist down. And this is my big note, because it's annoying because I can't tell a full story. I can't say this is what happened in this chapter, because it was like Lonnie, then Gabe, then Brandon, and then all of a sudden we got a little JP, and then we went back to Brandon, and then we went to Lanny, and then we went to Gabe, and then to Lanny, and then to Brandon, and to Gabe, and it's like, I mean, it flowed and all, and I guess you could follow it, but it was so much back and forth. So he calls, his boss, Brandon, then starts to remember, I guess they're trying to explain what happened, and Brandon's remembering the case, and he remembers how his boss didn't like him, and his boss was a little crooked, and his boss had made him go out and do research, investigate this case that he thought was going to be a cold case, and that it would be something in Brandon's file that would never be solved. And Brandon says, knowing the best he could hope for would be to build a circumstantial case, he went looking for Amos Warren. Circumstances over time, the victim's history came into focus. He was an ex-con who had gone to prison for killing someone in a bar fight on the night of his 21st birthday. After serving his time and being released, he'd been a loner, earning what somewhat sketchy living doing some kind of prospecting rather than a regular job. And it's revealed that he was prospecting Indian artifacts. And then he tells how he met John Lasseter and how he questioned him and all this kind of stuff. And Lanny goes through the spiritual quest by herself. She has those moments. She tells more Indian stories, more stuff of her background. Then she hears gunfire overnight, and then Gabe finally gets home, and when he gets home, he's left a package. By this point, his friend has been kidnapped, but he doesn't know that yet. And it's just a very multi-layered book. There's so much going on here by so many different people's point of views. And, you know, if you're a Brandon Walker fan, this is an excellent book for you. It tells you so much background information. And I felt bad for the dog, by the way. But if you're a J.P. Beaumont fan, it's a good mystery, I guess. But I was looking for J.P., and J.P. is like this much. And like I said, the biggest part of this book for me was finding out why Ross Connor's thing was disbanded. Because the other books don't say it. And I think we're moving on to Nothing to Lose. I think it's the next one. I'm not sure. I own the next one, so I have to go look. I have them in a pile in order. But so I'm going to leave you with that because I took over 30 pages of notes because I just had a hard time following it because I guess it was, the story is really interesting. We also get the bad guy's point of view too later on in the book. We get Ava's point of view and all the stuff she's done. But it is very, very multi-layered. It's very complex. There's no real twisty turns. You can probably see it coming. But it is very multi-layered, and there's a lot of people affected by the outcome of this. So if you're a Brandon Walker fan, you'll have to let me know if Gabe turns his life around after this incident and realizes that he needs to come clean and fix his life instead of continuing relationships with these people. And or if his friend Tim also decides to change his life for the better. I have not read the Brandon books, and I probably won't. But so it would be interesting to know if Gabe and Tim turn their lives around for the better after all this, after they've almost died themselves. Because what they went through was very harrowing and horrifying and stuff like that. And it would be interesting to know. But so definitely, if you're a Brandon Walker fan, this book is for you. It's all mostly 90% him and 10% Brandon, just like the other books were mostly Joanna Brady. I guess it's a good way to, if you have fans of one group of books, it's a good way to do cross books to bring fans into your other series. I think it works that way with the Fire and Ice and the Joanna Walker books too. You learn a lot about Joanna, and you get a lot of backstory, just like you get a lot of backstory with Brandon in here too. But the fact that JP was such a small part was really disappointing. And she's done that 3 consecutive times. She did it twice with the Joanna Brady books, but we did learn some really important information about JP too. So I mean, that was good there. But like I said, it's very multi-layered, and it reminds me a tremendous amount of the Ann Hillerman books. So you'll have to check them out too. I did do reviews on those last year, so please check those out. The Sacred Bridge and the Telltale Cave, I think, or that was the Bear Cave. But please check those out. Please check out my other videos. Don't forget Star Trek Fridays, and I'm still trying to decide if I should do Flashback Mondays or not. We'll have to see if anybody watches those. So thanks. Have a good one.